The eggnog was still warm when Mildred Donovan pulled me aside at her Christmas party. She didn't smile. She didn't offer me a drink. She just fixed me with those cold blue eyes and delivered the blow. Leah, it's time to replace you. You're no longer effective for Donovan River Logistics.
I'm Leah Pierce.
I'm 39 years old, and until that moment, I thought my 9 years of grinding had secured my place. I'd started as a junior logistics coordinator, risen to senior operations manager, pouring in weekends, holidays, nights away from my daughter, all for her family's shipping empire on the Mississippi. The party hummed behind us in their big suburban house outside St. Louis. Guests laughing by the tree, strung with lights, carols playing low. My 11-year-old Kendall giggled upstairs with cousins, clueless. Everyone toasted Christmas Eve while mine imploded. For months, tension had built. Meetings I got skipped on, reports bounced back with cryptic, new vision scrolls. Now, in her oak study, doors shut against the cheer. Mildred leaned on the desk I'd helped pick during the last remodel. You're experienced, Leah, but the industry's sprinting. We need fresh perspective. Younger blood mastering digital tracking, automation. You've pushed back too hard. I'd hiked river efficiency 35%, snagged the Memphis grain haul over giants. That was 2 years back. She snapped. Dylan Turner steps in January 15th, 28. Vanderbilt MBA. The drive we crave. Dylan, the consultant I'd mentored months ago. 6 months severance. A year of insurance.
Fair. Garrett, no.
Tell him post-holidays. Don't ruin the night. I slipped out past toasts, grabbed my coat, drove home through light snow, packed 2 suitcases, essentials, parents' photo, Kendall's baby shoe, left before Garrett rolled in late, headed straight to Union Station, St. Louis, parked in the empty lot. I sat on the worn wooden bench in the echoing hall, eyes on the blinking departure board as midnight crept close. Head empty. Future gone. If this story is hitting you, loyalty crushed by family you trusted, value erased overnight, smash subscribe now. Drop a comment. When did in-laws betray you hardest? Like to keep these raw truths coming. Your support fuels more. The front door clicked open just after 1 o'clock in the morning. Garrett stumbled in, cheeks flushed from the party, champagne, tie loosened. He stopped dead when he saw the 2 suitcases by the stairs. Leah, what the hell is going on? I was sitting on the bottom step, coat still on, keys in hand. I looked up at him and kept my voice steady. Your mother just fired me at the party. Told me I'm being replaced next month. He blinked, processing, then rubbed his forehead like he had a sudden headache. Wait. She mentioned something a couple weeks ago about restructuring, but I thought it was just talk. She didn't say it would be tonight. So he had known it was coming and stayed silent. That stung worse than the announcement itself. Garrett dropped his coat on the banister and sat on the step above me, close but not touching. His voice dropped. Look, I don't agree with how she did it. Okay? But Mom's convinced the river freight side needs a total overhaul. Digital manifests, real-time tracking, all that. She thinks you've been resistant. I almost laughed. Resistant? I'd spent the last 3 years fighting to keep manual overrides in place because the signal drops out on half the barges south of Cape Girardeau. But I didn't argue the point. Not anymore. He shifted, eyes on the floor. If I push back hard right now, everything gets complicated. The house is in her trust. My stake in the company, technically, it's still hers until she retires. I go against her on this, and it could all be at risk. The inheritance, the lifestyle we've built for Kendall. This isn't just about you, Leah. It's about all of us. There it was. Not outrage on my behalf. Not even surprise. Just calculation, protecting his future, our daughter's private school tuition, the lake cabin we barely used. I was the variable he couldn't afford to defend, and I stood up slowly. I get it, Garrett. I really do. He reached for my arm, half-hearted. Come on, don't do anything rash. Sleep here tonight. We'll talk to her tomorrow. Smooth it over. No, the word came out calm. Final. I'm not staying where I'm only useful until I'm not. His face tightened, but he didn't stand. He just watched me pick up the suitcases. I walked to the kitchen counter, pulled out my phone, and recorded a quick voice message for Kendall. Soft, warm, No hint of a storm. Hey, sweet girl. Mommy has to go take care of something important tonight. I love you bigger than the whole Mississippi. I'll pick you up tomorrow afternoon, and we'll get hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. Okay? Sweet dreams. I hit send, slipped the phone into my pocket, and headed for the garage. Garrett stayed on the stairs, silent now. The drive to Union Station took 20 quiet minutes. Light snow dusted the windshield, streets nearly empty on Christmas Eve. I parked in the vast lot under the old train shed, grabbed the suitcases, and walked into the cavernous hall. The place was almost deserted, just a janitor pushing a buffer in slow circles, and a handful of travelers slumped on benches. I bought the earliest one-way Amtrak ticket I could get, 6:45 a.m. to Chicago, and found a row of seats near the big arched windows. I sat, suitcases at my feet, and let the memories roll in without fighting them. 9 years. I'd started right after Kendall turned 2, taking the junior coordinator job because Garrett said it would keep me close to the family business, give us stability. I'd learned every bend of the river, every dock foreman's name from St. Louis to New Orleans. I'd worked nights rerouting barges around floods, spent weekends in the warehouse counting pallets when inventory went wrong. Missed Kendall's first school play because a grain haul was late. Skipped our anniversary trip, so I could negotiate a new rail contract that saved the company hundreds of thousands. All of it because I thought I was building something with them, not just for them. I'd pictured Kendall one day, walking those same docks, proud of what her parents had grown. Instead, I was disposable the moment a younger face with a better pitch deck showed up. The departure board clicked over. Still hours to go. A security guard nodded as he passed. Somewhere far off, a train whistle sounded low and lonely. I leaned my head against the cool glass, watching snow collect on the ledge outside. My chest felt hollow but not broken. Not yet. Just empty, waiting for whatever came next. The SUV hummed smoothly through the near-empty streets, wipers sweeping occasional flurries from the windshield. Lucas drove without rushing, hands steady at 10 and 2, classical music low on the radio. Something with pianos that filled the silence without demanding it. I stared out at the passing warehouses and bridges, the river a dark ribbon somewhere to our left. So, I said, finally, your mom really predicted I'd end up at Union Station tonight. Lucas glanced over, streetlights flashing across his face. Not the exact bench, but the pattern. Yeah, she's good at reading people in this industry. He merged onto the highway toward downtown. Mom started tracking Donovan River Logistics seriously about 2 years ago. A former recruiter there owes her a favor. Still feeds her anonymous updates on internal shifts. When your access badge got deactivated at 9:47 p.m. tonight, the flag went up immediately. That kind of move on a holiday eve almost always means termination without notice. I shifted in the seat, and she assumed I'd run. Not run, he corrected gently. Leave cleanly. From everything she's heard, your performance reviews, the way you handled the Cape Girardeau warehouse crisis, the rail contract you negotiated single-handed, she figured you wouldn't stick around for humiliation. Independent. Professional. The type who books a one-way ticket and figures the rest out later. I couldn't argue. That was exactly what I'd done. Lucas exited toward the city lights. She's followed your work longer than that, actually. Said the way you integrated manual checks into the automated loading system at the Memphis terminal was smart. Prevented a lot of costly errors the pure tech crowd overlooks.
Montmartre Ouest, l'offre practicale solution.
The buildings grew taller, office towers glowing here and there despite the hour. I rubbed my temples. This feels surreal. Like I'm walking into a job interview at 2 o'clock in the morning on Christmas. Lucas chuckled. Welcome to logistics. The river doesn't sleep. Neither do we when opportunity knocks. He pulled into an underground garage beneath a modern glass building, scanned a card, parked in a reserved spot near the elevator. We rode up in silence. 27 floors, the panel said. My stomach flipped, not from the speed, but from the sudden pivot my night had taken. Hours ago, I was packing to disappear. Now I was heading to a meeting that could rewrite everything. The elevator opened directly into a sleek reception area. Dark wood floors, abstract metal sculptures on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the snow-dusted city and the Mississippi beyond. No reception desk fanfare, just quiet confidence. A woman stood waiting by the windows, silver hair in a neat bob, wearing tailored slacks and a cashmere sweater. Professional, but comfortable, like she'd been working late by choice. Early 60s. Sharp eyes that matched Lucas's. She crossed the room, hand extended. Leah Pierce.
I'm Marilyn Adams.
Thank you for coming. Her handshake was firm, calluses faint on her palm. Someone who'd spent time on docks or in warehouses, not just boardrooms. Lucas hung back near the elevator, giving us space. Marilyn gestured to a cluster of leather chairs around a low table. Coffee steamed in a carafe, untouched. Please sit, Lucas said. You've had a hell of a night. I sank into the chair, suddenly aware how exhausted I was. That's putting it mildly. She poured 2 cups without asking, slid one toward me. I won't waste your time with small talk. I know what happened tonight. I know Mildred Donovan's reasoning, fresh blood, younger vision, all the buzzwords. And I know it's their loss. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. You're offering me a job. Straight to it. Yes. Marilyn leaned forward, Director of Operations for Adams Freight Solutions. Full autonomy over 12 regional teams. 6-figure base, performance bonuses, meaningful equity that vests over 4 years. Flexible schedule, remote when you need it for your daughter. We value results, not FaceTime. The numbers hit harder than expected. More than I'd ever made at Donovan, with actual ownership, she continued, voice steady. Your track record speaks for itself. The way you turned around the southern barge routes during the 2023 flood season, rerouting through rail without losing a single contract. The inventory system you redesigned that cut shrinkage by 30%. Practical, human-centered fixes. That's rare. I set the cup down. Why me? There are plenty of younger candidates with the latest certifications. Marilyn smiled, not kindly, respectfully, because MBAs can model efficiency on spreadsheets. You've done it in the mud at 3 a.m. when a barge is stuck and a client is screaming. Experience like yours can't be taught. And loyalty, real loyalty, goes both ways here. Lucas spoke from across the room. Mom doesn't poach for sport. She waits for the right moment. Marilyn shot him an amused look. He makes me sound predatory. I prefer opportunistic. I exhaled slowly. The offer was everything I'd earned but never been given. But trust came hard right now. I need one night to think, I said. It's been a lot. Marilyn nodded without hesitation. Fair. More than fair. She stood, pulled a key card from her pocket. Company suite at the hotel across the street. 2 months paid, no strings. Sleep.
Shower. Think.
Call me in the morning if you want to talk numbers, or walk away. She handed me the card, then a folder. Contract draft inside. Standard non-compete. Full benefits summary. Have your lawyer review it if you like. Lucas stepped forward. I'll drive you over. We rode down in the elevator again. City lights blurring past. At the hotel, a quiet extended stay place near the office, he carried my suitcases to the lobby, handed them to the night clerk who'd been alerted. Whatever you decide, he said, tonight doesn't define you. Their choice does. I managed a tired smile. Thanks for the rescue mission. He laughed softly. Just the pickup. The rest is on you. The room was simple. Kitchenette, big bed, river view. I dropped the bags, kicked off shoes, sat on the edge of the mattress, staring at the folder. For the first time since Mildred's words, the weight on my chest eased a fraction.
Not gone.
Just shared. Outside, snow kept falling over St. Louis, silent and steady. The hotel door closed with a soft thud, shutting out the quiet hallway. I leaned against it for a moment, letting the silence settle. The room was spacious for a company suite. King bed neatly made, small living area with a couch, kitchenette stocked with basics, and a desk by the window overlooking the arch glowing against a snowy sky. I set the folder Marilyn had handed me on the desk and shrugged off my coat. My hands were still cold from the short walk across the street. I poured water from the complimentary bottle, drank half in one go, then sat in the armchair facing the window. Snow fell steadily, blanketing the streets below. A few delivery trucks moved slow on the plowed roads, headlights cutting white paths. Everything felt suspended, Christmas morning, but the world hadn't woken yet. I opened the folder. The contract was printed on heavy paper. Adams Freight Solutions letterhead crisp at the top. I read the opening lines twice. Position: Director of Operations, reporting directly to CEO Marilyn Adams, responsible for oversight of 12 regional teams, $500 million annual throughput, full P&L authority on turnaround projects. The salary figure jumped out, 75% higher than my last at Donovan. Annual bonus tied to EBITDA improvement on assigned clients, capped at 50% of base. Equity grant: 50,000 shares vesting over 4 years, accelerated on major successes. Benefits package attached: comprehensive health from day one, for a 1K under 1K match, immediate 25 PTO days plus holidays, tuition reimbursement if I ever wanted it. Then the flexibility clause explicitly written: remote work up to 3 days per week standard, additional as needed for family obligations, subject only to project deadlines. That I flipped to the non-compete. Standard 2-year restriction on direct competitors, but carved out for general logistics consulting. Reasonable. Fared, a separate page listed current major projects: a struggling intermodal hub in Kansas City, a cold chain distributor in Iowa losing margins, a rail barge transfer point near New Orleans needing modernization without losing jobs. Each one sounded like something I could fix. Something I'd wanted to fix for years, but never been allowed full control. I closed the folder, rubbed my eyes. The clock on the nightstand read 2:45 at m. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Lucas. Settled in? Mom says, take whatever time you need. No rush. Did I type back? Thanks. Room's perfect. I set the phone face down and paced. The carpet was thick, soundless under my socks. Part of me wanted to sign right then, scan it, email it back.
Done.
But another part, the part bruised from tonight, needed distance. I'd spent 9 years trusting family promises that turned out conditional. I wouldn't leap blind again. Even if this felt different, I opened my contacts, found Raymond Lee. The message thread went back years. Simple contract reviews, nothing personal. That I typed. Ray. It's Leah. Everything's changed tonight. I'm likely filing for divorce soon. No fault, no fight over money.
Can you handle it?
Also, need quick review of a job offer. His reply came within minutes. Leah, call me any time after 8 tomorrow. We'll get it started clean and fast. Congratulations on the new opportunity. Whatever it is. I stared at the screen.
Clean and fast.
No drama. Exactly what I needed. I set an alarm for 7:30, showered in the marble bathroom, hot water, endless pressure, strong. Put on the spare jeans and sweater I'd packed, made coffee from the single-serve machine, black, strong. Back in the armchair, folder open again. I read every clause twice. No hidden penalties, no vague, at company discretion phrases that Mildred loved. The equity schedule was generous. The relocation allowance, if I wanted to move closer to the office, covered closing costs, temporary housing, even school enrollment help for Kendall. I thought about my daughter, still asleep at her grandparents', probably dreaming of presents under the tree. She'd wake to a world shifted, but I could make it better.
Stable.
Proud. The risks lined up in my head. New company, new boss, higher stakes. Failure would be public. Success would mean longer hours at first, travel. But staying small, taking a safe job somewhere else, licking wounds, that felt worse. That would teach Kendall that when people discard you, you shrink. And oh, I wouldn't model that. Outside, the sky turned from black to deep blue to pale rose. Delivery trucks multiplied. A barge pushed north on the river, running lights bright. AT 729, I dialed Marilyn's direct line from the card. She answered immediately, voice warm but professional. Leah, good morning. I've decided, I said.
I'm acceptin'.
A soft laugh on her end. That's the answer I hoped for. Digital signature link is already in your email, sent an hour ago. Return it whenever. HR will onboard you Tuesday. Take today and tomorrow with your family. Thank you for the offer, for the space to think. You're worth it, she said simply. We'll talk details soon. Enjoy Christmas. I hung up, opened the email, clicked the link, signed with my finger on the screen. Sent. It was done. I stood at the window, coffee cooling in my hand. The city woke fully now, cars streaming, people walking dogs, church bells somewhere distant. The weight that had pressed since Mildred's office lifted. Not gone, but lighter. Manageable. I crawled into the bed, fully dressed, pulled the comforter high. Sleep came fast and deep. No dreams of falling. When I woke hours later, sunlight poured across the room, bright on fresh snow. 2 days after Christmas, I drove to Garrett's parents' house to pick up Kendall. The snow had stopped, leaving everything clean and bright under weak winter sun. Kendall waited on the porch, backpack slung over one shoulder, waving as soon as she spotted my car. She climbed in, buckled up, and looked at me with those serious 11-year-old eyes. Mom, why didn't you stay for Christmas morning? Grandma said you had work stuff. I pulled back onto the road before answering, keeping my voice light. Something big happened at work, sweet girl. Grandma decided Mommy's job there is over. But I got a new one, better one, where people really value what I do. Kendall frowned, processing. So you're not going back to the river office? Nope. New company, new projects, and I'll be home more, not stuck late fixing barges. She was quiet for a minute, staring out at passing subdivisions. Is Dad mad? I glanced at her. Dad and I are figuring things out, but nothing changes how much we both love you. She nodded slowly, then reached for the radio, turning on her favorite pop station. The rest of the drive, she sang along softly, and I let the normalcy of it calm us both. We spent the rest of the holidays quiet, baking cookies in the hotel kitchenette, watching movies, building a snowman in the small park across the street. I didn't push heavy conversations. She asked questions when ready, accepted answers when they came. The first week of January, I started at Adams Freight Solutions. Marilyn met me in the lobby herself, handed over a badge and laptop, introduced me to the core team in a quick stand-up meeting. No fanfare, just purpose. My first assignment landed immediately. Lead turnaround on a failing intermodal client downriver, a network of transfer points from Memphis to New Orleans bleeding money on delays and misloads. I flew south the next day, rented a truck, and spent the first week on site. Boots on wet docks, hard hat under floodlights, talking to loaders who'd been there 20 years, drivers running night hauls, maintenance crews patching conveyor belts with duct tape that I didn't arrive with. PowerPoints. I asked questions. What breaks most? Where do loads sit longest? What would you change if you could? They started wary another consultant come to cut jobs. But when I implemented their suggestions, rerouting certain containers to rail earlier, adjusting shift overlaps to reduce overtime waste, replacing one faulty scale that threw weights off, they saw results. Within a month, on-time transfers rose 15%. By month 3, the operation moved from red to black. Word spread through the team. The new director actually listened. Back in St. Louis, the office respected the hours I put in remotely. Marilyn checked in weekly, short calls focused on numbers and blockers, never micromanaging. The culture was direct, merit-based. No family favoritism. No unspoken rules. One evening in early spring, my phone rang with Garrett's name. I almost let it go to voicemail, then answered. Leah. His voice sounded tired. Careful. How's the new job? Good. Busy. Challenging. Look, I've been thinking. Maybe we rush things. For Kendall's sake, we could talk. Try counseling or something. Slow it down. I stood at my apartment window, new place closer to the office. 2 bedrooms, view of the river. Garrett, there's nothing to slow down. You made your choice that night. I've made mine. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. My tone stayed even. You chose the path that kept you safe. I chose the one that keeps me whole. We're done. He didn't argue further. Just a quiet okay before hanging up. Raymond filed papers the next week. No fault, straightforward asset split. Garrett signed without contest. Custody defaulted joint, but Kendall's preference and my stable income made primary with me simple. Final decree came in late May. Kendall adjusted better than I feared. Weekends with her dad became less frequent as his work schedule shifted, whatever was happening at Donovan, keeping him late. She never complained, just asked for extra time baking or reading with me. BY Summer, the Downriver Project posted record margins. Marilyn promoted me, formally added 2 more teams under my oversight. The staff, analysts, managers, field leads started seeking my input unprompted. Respect earned, not demanded. Kendall came to the office once, sat in my chair, spun around laughing. "This is way cooler than the old place, Mom." I smiled, ruffled her hair. "Yeah, it really is." 6 months in, the numbers spoke clear. Hundreds of jobs saved, millions turned from loss to profit. And for the first time in years, I went home at reasonable hours. Energy left for bedtime stories and school projects. The team threw a small celebration, pizza in the conference room. No speeches, just quiet acknowledgement that we'd done something hard and done it right. Driving home that night, Kendall asleep in the back seat, I felt the shift solid inside me. Not revenge. Just forward motion. News about Donovan River Logistics trickled in slowly over the next 2 years, mostly through old contacts who still texted updates or industry newsletters I couldn't quite unsubscribe from. The decline started small but steady in that first year. Dylan Turner took the helm with confidence, rolling out his full automation vision across every terminal. New sensors tracked container movement in real time, algorithms optimized barge loading sequences. Predictive software promised to cut delays by half. On spreadsheets, it looked revolutionary. On the actual river, reality pushed back hard. Seasonal fog disrupted wireless signals along stretches near Baton Rouge. Older cranes couldn't interface cleanly with the new controls, causing frequent shutdowns. Drivers and dock crews spent more time troubleshooting error codes than moving freight. Clients noticed first. A major grain shipper out of Vicksburg complained of repeated late deliveries during harvest peak. When penalties stacked up, they switched to a competitor with proven reliability. 2 chemical haulers followed months later, citing inconsistent scheduling that messed up their just-in-time needs. Revenue dipped 10% that first quarter, then 15% the next. Cash reserves thinned faster than Mildred expected. She authorized overtime for IT teams to patch the system, but fixes created new bugs elsewhere. Garrett mentioned it once in a short call about Kendall's school schedule. "It's growing pains," he said, voice strained. Dylan swears the kinks will smooth out by summer. They didn't by the end of year 1. Donovan had lost 5 significant contracts, nearly 30% of volume. Layoff rumors circulated though Mildred held off cutting headcount, dipping into lines of credit instead. The banks grew nervous midway through year 2. Debt covenants required certain ratios. Falling income breached them. Lenders demanded amended terms, higher interest, accelerated principal payments. Mildred negotiated extensions, but options narrowed. She authorized the first big staff reduction that fall, 25% across terminals, and admin. Longtime foreman I'd worked alongside took buyouts. Younger workers scrambled for openings at rival firms. The river grapevine lit up with stories of families relocating or taking pay cuts elsewhere. Mildred put the suburban estate on the market soon after. The house sold quicker than expected, but at a price lower than she'd hoped in a softening market. She moved into a modern 2-bedroom condo, overlooking the arch. Still upscale, private balcony and concierge, but a clear step down from the acreage and pool the family had known for decades. Her personal finances stayed solid, trusts and investments shielded from business debt. But the daily reminders hit harder. No more hosting industry barbecues, fewer invitations to the club events she'd once dominated. Garrett bore the brunt professionally. His ceremonial title vanished in a reorganization Dylan framed as streamlining. Resume went out. Interviews yielded polite rejections. Overqualified for mid-level, undercurrent for executive in a tight circle. Months passed before he landed part-time coordination at a regional rail yard. Steady but unglamorous, evening shifts that left him drained. He aged visibly in photos Kendall occasionally showed me from rare visits. Hair grayer, shoulders rounded. Calls to her grew sporadic, excuses about work piling up. Kendall turned 13 that spring, sharper and more observant every month. She started asking direct questions over dinner. "Why does Dad always sound tired?" Grandma's new place is small. Does that mean money problems? I answered honestly but gently, letting facts speak. She pieced the rest together from overheard adult conversations at school. Kids whose parents still work the river point one fall evening when she was 14. She set her phone down after ignoring another text from Garrett. Mom, I don't want to go there anymore. It feels fake, like they act normal, but everything's falling apart because they chose it. I waited, giving her space. They let you go, she said quietly, and didn't even fight. That hurts me too. I hugged her tight. You get to choose your boundaries, sweetheart. Whatever feels right for you. From then on, contact faded naturally. Garrett's calls went unanswered. Mildred's birthday cards returned unopened. Kendall focused on school, friends, weekends with me, building the stability she craved. Late in that second year, Donovan River Logistics filed Chapter 11. Court filings detailed the slide: debt exceeding assets, unsustainable overhead from the automation rollout, lost goodwill with shippers. Reorganization plans involved selling non-core terminals, leasing back others at higher rates. Assets went to auction gradually, barge fleets piecemeal, warehouse equipment in lots. The headquarters building to a developer converting it to lofts. The Donovan name disappeared from doc signs one by one. Mildred attended required creditor meetings, face composed. But word spread she'd stepped back entirely from public life. Garrett kept his rail job, paycheck to paycheck, covering condo fees and basics. No dramatic courtroom scenes, no tabloid headlines, just the slow, inevitable unwind of a family legacy that bet wrong on people. 3 years out from that Christmas Eve, the river kept flowing, carrying freight under new banners. Kendall never asked to visit again. 3 years have passed since that Christmas Eve, and my office now sits on the top floor of Adams Freight Solutions. Windows framing the wide curve of the Mississippi below. As partner, I oversee the entire Midwest division operations, spanning 8 states, billions in annual throughput, teams that trust me to make the hard calls. Mornings start early. I review reports over coffee, join video stand-ups with regional directors, fly out when a client site needs hands-on troubleshooting. Evenings end reasonable, home for dinner most nights. Weekends free for whatever Kendall wants. We live in a house we picked together. 3 bedrooms on a quiet street near the river trail. Backyard big enough for her soccer net and my herb garden. Kendall, 14 now and taller than me in heels, fills it with music practice, friends over for study groups, the easy chaos of teenager life. She talks about me at school without prompting. My mom fixes broken companies, she'll say, when career day comes around, or to new friends asking about parents. She saves jobs and makes everything run smoother. The pride in her voice still catches me off guard sometimes. Our routine feels solid. School drop-off, chats about tests or crushes, grocery runs turning into impromptu dance sessions in the aisles, movie nights with too much popcorn, and more walking on eggshells around family obligations that weren't reciprocal. I never pushed her to cut ties completely. It happened because she felt the imbalance herself. The rare times Garrett or Mildred reach out now, messages stay unread. Kendall decided early that energy spent there wasn't worth it. I support whatever keeps her steady, and my own days carry purpose I didn't know I was missing. Projects land on my desk that matter. Reviving a struggling rail hub in Iowa, streamlining cold chain for a food distributor in Wisconsin, negotiating partnerships that keep local warehouses open. Teams look to me not because of a family name, but because the fixes work. Marilyn retired last year, handed the reins to a new CEO while keeping her founder title. She stops by occasionally, shares a coffee, nods approval at the numbers. "You were the best risk I ever took," she said once, half joking. The Donovan collapse didn't define my success. It just cleared space. Their choices led where they led. Consequences they live with daily. I don't follow the details anymore. No satisfaction in it. Just distance. What feels like victory is simpler. Waking without dread, building something earned, coming home to a daughter who chooses me every day because she wants to, not because she has to. Freedom isn't loud revenge. It's quiet boundaries held firm. It's work that respects you back. It's evenings laughing over dinner, planning college visits, already knowing tomorrow holds more of the same steadiness. That Christmas Eve, I thought everything ended. Instead, It marked the start of what actually mattered, that my value never depended on people who couldn't see it. Once I stopped waiting for them to change their minds, I built a life where it's recognized every day by colleagues who rely on my judgment, by a daughter who mirrors my confidence, by the mirror itself. The river keeps moving outside my window, steady and strong. So do we.